Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few. My name is Rich Charpentier and I'm the channel host. And today we're going to do a little more with the Theta Z1. Several weeks ago I'd showed the audience here how the multi-bracketing works for the Theta Z1, because that was something I was really after when I made the purchase of the Theta Z1, was using multi-bracketing to create some layered images that would, be better than the sum of its parts. But one thing that I skipped over on the Theta Z1 was some of the automatic modes. So we kind of did the more complex stuff the other week by doing these multi-bracketed shots, but I didn't take the time to show you some of the basic shots. So I'm recording on my iPhone 8 Plus here, and I've got the Theta Z1 right behind me here. So it's all set up and ready to go, and it wants to do some 360s. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try several of the modes on the Theta Z1, and then I'm going to put them up on Kula so that you can take a look and see the differences in them and see if you can see any difference. So we'll do those automatic modes, and then we're going to do one bracketed shot, one bracketed set in the multi-bracketing mode so that we can have a comparison between these automatic modes and the multi-bracket. Finally, the other thing I'm going to do with this one is we're not even going to edit these. So each of these, I'm going to have them as standalone products here, and we're not going to do any editing for the first couple of images till we get to the multi-bracketing. When we get to the multi-bracketing, there is going to be some editing because there has to be. But in the meantime, we've got this set up where it's just, let me look on screen here. So our shooting method is normal shooting, so we're just using the normal mode. And a little ways down below that, we have file format. I'm just going to do these in JPEG. I could do these in JPEG and RAW, but then some of the features won't work. So when you do the RAW, you can't do the HDR setup. So we're going to do normal shooting and JPEG. So let's pretend that we're in a hurry. We're going through a house that we're shooting maybe, and we don't want to spend a lot of time, and the client isn't looking for the high-end 360s. They just want a nice 360 that's representative of their business or room. And by the way, we're in a complex lighting environment here. We're in our kitchen right now. Behind me, you can see that it is darker in the living room area. So we've got some extreme brights because we've got all these windows behind the camera here. And then we've got some super dark areas over in here and some super dark areas over here. So we're going to see how those come together. So I'm going to get out of my shooting settings and hit done. And here we are back at the Theta Z1. And what we're going to do, below the image that we see, we've got our EV, so I'm going to have it set to 0, 0. We're going to do automatic on the white balance because, like I said, we're moving quickly. And then we've got an option setting. So we've got several options. Number one, we're going to try out off. So no extra features, just shooting the 360. And then the camera is going to render that final 360 in JPEG. The next one that we're going to do after that is going to be noise reduction. So because of the fact we've got a lot of dark shadowed areas, there's a high probability that there's going to be a fair amount of noise in these shots. You can clean those things up in Lightroom or in Photoshop or your favorite photo editing program. There's most likely some cleanup for that. So we'll deal with that. The next one is DR compensation, and according to Ricoh, this helps you deal with some extremely bright areas and some extremely dark areas and kind of leveling things out. On their web pages, they suggest, if you're outdoors and you've got some extreme lighting situations where it's super blue skies in one direction, shadows in the other direction, the DR compensation is supposed to help out with that. I haven't been too impressed with it. I'm going to let you take a look, and you can make the decision for yourself. Do I like it? Do I not like it? All right. Next one that we're going to be doing is HDR rendering, so it's an automatic high dynamic range. Like I said, we've got these really beautiful windows here with some great detail out there, but to expose for that means that everything back here is going to be dark. So how do we get all that blended together to where it looks natural and feels okay? Well, that HDR rendering is going to help us out a little bit. And if you're trying to quickly shoot interiors, I'm thinking that the HDR version is probably going to be your best bet if you're also under a time budget, time constraint. And then finally, they have handheld HDR. We're not going to play with this one indoors today. We did some testing with it out at a place called Goldwater Lake here in Prescott, Arizona, and we weren't super impressed with the final output of the handheld HDR. A little bit of a breeze, a little bit of shake on the camera, and it looked a little too pixelated and noisy for my liking. So we're going to skip past that one. So we're going to scroll back. We're going to set options to off. And I'm going to run and hide behind a corner over here where the camera's not going to pick me up. So the first one that we're doing, no special options. We're going to be outputting a JPEG. So let me take a run here and just get out of the room. And we're going to take that simple shot. All right, and that photo has just been taken, and it says the image is synthesizing. Okay, so we'll make an appearance back out here just for a moment, and then you can actually see me coming in to the 360 camera as well. Hello, 360 camera. So the next option we're going to do is the noise reduction. Like I said, we've got some extreme brights, some extreme darks here. When this gets blended together, yeah, there's going to be noise. So I'm going to run out of the way again, and we're just going to continue hiding over here. There we go. I am out of the shot, so let's go ahead and take that second shot. So that second shot is still synthesizing, and that was our noise reduction. Now our third one, you know, like I said, they had suggested extreme lighting conditions, maybe outdoors, but I think we've got some extreme lighting conditions here with the extremely dark areas in the living room and in the kitchen area as well. So let's go ahead and try. Let's double check ourselves. Let's go ahead and try that DR compensation. And finally, let's go ahead and use the automatic HDR rendering mode. Okay, so in the case of these images, we're all set, and we've got those all captured to test out and throw into Kula afterward. Now, the final thing that we're going to do just to show the big differences here is I'm going to go back up to the right-hand corner to the shooting settings, and I'm going to go from normal shooting to multi-bracket shooting. I'm also going to go to RAW and JPEG because I want those RAWs. I'm not going to be using the JPEGs, but there we go, done. And so you've probably already seen this in my other video that we did the other week with the multi-bracketing, but we're going to do a single multi-bracket from the same exact location so we can really make some good comparisons. So number one, let's go to what should be our darkest one, and that is pretty dark. So we're at aperture 5.6, 1/40th of a second, ISO of 100. We've got the white balance at 5000K. That might be a little too warm when it's all said and done, but we can deal with that in post-processing. All right, let's go down to the 1/20th of a second. Definitely starting to fill in some of the darker areas. I'm going to go ahead and say done with that one. Next one, 1/10th of a second. Let's see what that's looking like. All right, we're definitely getting more exposure in here. Let's drop down to the 1/5. All right, we're getting a lot more exposure in there. That's looking pretty good. Let me hit done on that one. And finally, all right, so definitely some pretty good exposure. We still have a little dark area in the kitchen area, but I'm going to go ahead and go with that one. So there's our multi-bracket setup for the JPEGs. Let me get out of the way one more time, just so I'm not in scene. Now in this mode, it's going to be taking all 5 of those frames. So it's going to go through each frame. If you're looking down at the bottom, it says remaining 5. Now it's got remaining 4. And if you look below those, you'll see it's changing the shutter speed for each of these. Now we're at 1/10th of a second. There, it's taking that shot. So it's getting each of these. It's not going to give us a fully rendered 360. For that, we're going to need to do stitching afterward. And in the case of my workflow, I'm going to use PT GUI for the stitching afterward. So there we go, just about done. Once it tells me, there we go, the multi-brackets are done. So now I'm going to come back around to the Theta Z1, and we're all set. So we actually did this kitchen with 4 different automatic modes, and then after doing the 4 different automatic modes, we've also set ourselves up for that multi-bracket so we can actually compare the final outputs. So in the next part of this video, we're going to be back in the office, and we'll be working on each of these images. Like I said, the first set where they're automatically being rendered, I'm not even going to edit those. We're going to see what they look like just coming out of the camera, and how these automated modes do for us. Of course, we can do additional editing afterward, and we could have shot these JPEG and RAW and then done some more fine tuning afterward. But I just wanted to do a quick one where we're looking at those automated features that that the Ricoh Theta Z1 offers. So I'm going to turn that multi-bracket off, put it back over to normal shooting, and I'm also just putting that back to JPEG. I'm not planning on doing any other shoots today. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's move into the office space, and we're going to start offloading these and taking a look at what we got. So here we are back in the studio, and to speed things along, I've already done a couple things. I offloaded the images from the Ricoh Theta Z1, and I've got them in my Lightroom library. So the first 4 images are the automatic settings. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 5th image is actually a multi-bracket that I put together. Now, if you'd like to know more about multi-bracketing, I'm going to put a drop-down up on top here for you. And you can take a look at the video that I did a couple weeks ago about using multi-bracketing on the Theta Z1. And out of all of these methods, I gotta say the best looking one is the multi-bracket, of course, because you're gonna be doing some additional editing. But just checking out those normal modes that they offered the standard 360, nothing extra to it, and then they did the denoise and the DR compensation, and finally the automatic HDR. And so I labeled each of these. So let's take a look really quick. So this is the standard no options selected, and as you can see, the windows are completely blown out. The living room area definitely is darker, and so is part of the kitchen area. I'm going to do a zoom in here because I want you to see this. So we're not zoomed all the way in, but it is very noisy. You can see the noise in here. Let me hit the tab key just so that you can see that. So there is a good bit of noise in this one. So let's move over to the next one, which is the denoise. So the first major option setting, we can do denoise, and it does reduce the noise a good bit. We still have some super dark areas in the kitchen. We still have the blown out windows. So not the greatest. You're still going to want to do some kind of editing. Like I said at the beginning of this, these are some really fast modes to do it. If you're doing intermediate 360s for people where they don't want the highest end. But so denoise is doing all right. Let's look at the DR compensation. Now the DR compensation, according to Ricoh's website, is for extreme brights and extreme darks in situations outdoors. I thought maybe it'd be interesting to see it with this indoors for some extreme darks and extreme brights. But when we zoom in on this, so the DR compensation, there is a lot of noise in here, so you'd have to run it through some kind of denoise afterward. But maybe this would look better outside. We'll do another video where we take it outside and see how this performs. Finally, on the automatic settings is the HDR rendering. So let's zoom this out for a sec. Number 1, we've got some details out of the windows. Awesome. We can actually see that there's a yard out there. Things are looking a little brighter in the living room area here, but there is some noise going on, but it's not extreme noise. So this is not too bad, the automatic HDR rendering. Now, I did not do the handheld HDR rendering because it was atrocious when we tested it outdoors at Goldwater Lake. So the HDR renders looking pretty good. You're going to need to do some editing and some fine tuning on the color as well. So this is a little too warm inside for what it really looks like in this room this time of day. Finally, I just wanted to show you the multi-bracket, and there was a problem with the stitching, so I didn't notice it until afterward when I was setting up for this. But as you can see with the multi-bracket, check out the detail out the windows. Absolutely awesome. And let's go zoom into that into the cabinets. As you can see, there's a little tilt angle. So something went wrong with my stitching. If I rerun the stitching, I'm sure I can correct it. On Kula, I set one of these up for you on Kula so you could see. So there is some noise, but we've got a lot more detail. We've got more visibility into these drawers here next to the cabinets. So definitely the multi-bracket is the winner out of all of these. But if you were in a hurry, if you were just blowing through, doing a run and gun in a location, that HDR rendering might fit the bill. You're still going to need to do some editing afterward. But if you're just looking for some quick shots, some quick 360 shots, I think the HDR render comes across nicely. I think the denoise comes across decently as well, but as you can see, it's pretty flat and you're going to need to do some adjustments to get the color and the white balance where you want it. And also, you've got those blown out windows in this situation. So I love being able to actually get some window detail. Now, before we sign off with this, I already loaded this up to Kula. So this is my Kula account, by the way. So if you pop by Kula and you just search for AZ space drone, you're going to find our stuff that's available to the public. But the newest one I have here is just for this video, the Ricoh Theta Z1 automatic modes. So, and then I give an explanation of it. I'm going to click into here really fast. And so I set all these up. Number one, you can't go up and down because I just wanted you to get a look at this. So you can zoom in and out. And so this is the no option selected mode. So this is the automatic mode that you hit when you first take the Theta Z1 out of the box. Let's zoom on in here. And as you can see, we've got a fair bit of noise. So once again, there'd be some editing afterward. And then if we denoise things, then it's not as sharp. So it's not the greatest, way to do this at all, but let's take a look around in here. So, good 360, but once again, in that dark room, you want to talk about a lot of noise. So let's go to the noise reduction one. And here we are again, still the colors aren't quite right, but let's zoom in here. Definitely a lot less noise, so you can probably deal with this a little more post-processing in Lightroom or Photoshop. And let's move on to the DR compensation. Once again, the explanation from Ricoh. It sounds like this should be an outdoor setting. So I'm going to the DR compensation. I want to zoom in. And whoa, the noise in here. Just look at all the pixelation and noise. When you zoom out, it looks passable, but still, it reminds me of some of the products from my Insta360 One X when I was doing interior stuff with that. Just not up to the job. All right, let's go to the HDR rendering. So this is the automatic HDR rendering under those options. Let's zoom in here. A lot less noise. This did a decent job here. The colors are definitely off, but I could deal with that pretty easily in Lightroom in a few minutes' time. I can probably get a little more detail out of these windows too. So this HDR rendering mode's looking all right to me. And let's just rotate around. Let's zoom in here. And I'm definitely seeing some noise up in here as well. Like I said, I have not edited these at all. The only one that got edited was the multi-bracket because you got to put everything together. And speaking of that, let's go look at that one real quick. And so number one, there was a bit of a tilt. I was being in too much of a hurry and definitely didn't stitch right. That's my own fault. So, sometimes the stitch won't go right and you can fix that very quickly by marking out a couple extra points. But overall, look at the detail that we've got out of this window. Importing this back into Lightroom as a TIFF, I can definitely get more detail out of those windows. Also, we do have some noise up in here. I see the noise above the cabinets. It's, unmistakable. But zooming out a little bit, you don't have to allow people to zoom all the way in. But the second thing is, in Lightroom, I can fix this noise in mere moments and then also get my color exactly where I want it. So this is our kitchen. This is our active kitchen, so I didn't stage it for anything. Also, you'll see the iPhone 8 sitting on the GorillaPod here. So that's what I was filming with at the start of this video. So just leaving those things in there. But yeah, definitely a little bit of distortion on this one, so I should go restitch it to get it right. But I didn't want to spend all day on producing this video. I think you get the idea though. So the basic mode, this first basic mode, maybe outside it's going to do a better job. And maybe, outside we don't have to worry about that noise reduction so much. But the noise reduction works pretty well. But it still doesn't give you all of the details in this room, like the things happening outside the window. That DR compensation down the road, if you're interested, leave some comments below if you're interested to see the DR compensation outside, and we'll go somewhere fun to do one of those. Once again, that HDR render mode in these automatic modes, I think this one performed best. I would have to do some more color correction. Most likely what I'd want to do is put a neutral gray card somewhere in there so that I can actually get the white balance calibrated a little better. And finally, that multi-bracket. So I would honestly say, if you're using the Theta Z1 and you're looking to provide people with a better end product, I'm going to go ahead and say that doing the multi-bracket mode is probably going to be your best bet. And then you'll have to do the stitching and everything afterward. So it's going to take you longer to shoot on site, and it's going to take you longer in post-processing, but in the end, it is going to give a better product that really shows off the rooms better. And like I said, there's going to be more post-processing on the back end. So don't run away from this going, oh, the Z1's terrible, or Rich got a bad Z1. This is just, running and gunning, doing something really fast, trying the automatic modes. If you don't have a lot of time, maybe you're doing a full set of still interiors, and the client wouldn't mind a lower end set of 360s as well, and you're on a time budget, then I'd say that the automatic HDR rendering might be a great starting point for you. And if you got just a little bit more time and you don't mind doing a little more editing on the back end, then yeah, I'm going with the multi-bracket every single time. I can get a lot better results out of that. And that light bit of noise that we're seeing, let's go to that multi-bracket. The light bit of noise that we're seeing up there is easily removed, and you can still sharpen other things. So you won't have much loss there. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope that this little video was helpful to you, gives you some ideas about how you can do some quick imaging for 360s on interiors. And then probably, let's just call it the right way, doing the multi-bracket's probably going to be your best bet for some higher end results for your clients. All right, we'll see you again on the next video, and have an awesome week, everybody.